And welcome everyone to this episode of Artdacity, Art in Fashion, Making a Statement. Produced by Boston Art and Music Soul, BAMS Fest, Artdacity is a conversational style series that explores the intersections of the arts, civic engagement, and the lived experiences between Black and Brown creatives, entrepreneurs, and communities at large. We want to thank you to our sponsors, Amazon and Boston Cultural Council. I'm your host and also moderator for this evening. My name is Althea Blackford. I am the owner of V-Style Productions and founder and executive producer of Boston Caribbean Fashion Week. V-Style Productions was created in 2009 by myself. It is an entertainment production company that focuses on media and live events. And part of what V-Style is all about is every vision has its own style, and that's what I wanted to bring to life. And I freelanced in my earlier years as a choreographer and coordinator for numerous amounts of local fashion shows, which bridged the way into creating my own television show on the local cable access channel, Boston Neighborhood Network, BNN. And the name of the show was called Style It Up. And that happened in 2005. And it was able to showcase and profile fashion designers in the New England area and also spotlight fashion industry professionals as well and highlight fashion events that are around town. And then in 2013, I was able to create Boston Caribbean Fashion Week. And the goal for the Fashion Week is to showcase the Caribbean culture in Boston through fashion, through costume designers and through the clothing designs as well too, and celebrate the Caribbean culture in various types of ways. So now I would like to move on from myself and now introduce our awesome, amazing panel that we have here this evening. First up we have is Joelle Fontaine. She is founder and CEO of Creole. Joelle Fontaine's fashion label Creole is inspired by her Haitian heritage and utilizes old uniforms and dresses from her childhood made by her mother as a basis as inspiration for design. With over 15 years of fashion experience, Fontaine created a brand that utilizes art as a mode for economic mobility and sustainability for artisans and creatives around the world. Their mission is to empower women through fashion. Creole has been featured in a number of publications globally, as well at New York and London Fashion Week. Most recently, at the height of the pandemic, they launched their first artisan collection in the collaboration with the Red Sox Foundation at Bloomingdale's in Chestnut Hill in Boston. The launch featured accessories and home goods from artisans in Haiti, Ecuador, and locally here in Boston. You can now shop their artisan collection at the Creole Boutique at One Bow Market Way in Somerville. Joelle, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Althea. Thank you so much for having us. This is going to be exciting. This is super exciting.
It's going to be a great talk.
For sure.
All right. So next up, closing out our lovely panel here today, we have Chris Bray. Chris Bray is the CEO and lead designer of Dorillis Clothing. Dorillis makes garments with a street edge and a timeless, clean-cut look. Dorillis, the realist, motto is made for real, comfortable, everywhere. Bray creates clothing that is rich in quality and detail. Bray's designs are inspired by art, cultural fashion and expression, streetwear, industrial environments, music, vintage pieces, and nostalgia. Dorillis pieces have been worn by celebrities and influencers and have been featured on the hit TV show Atlanta. Bray is a Dorchester native who attended Morris Brown College and American Intercontinental University, both in Atlanta, Georgia, where he majored in fashion design and marketing. Bray has hosted several community-driven events at his flagship store in Dorchester and serves on the board of directors of Greater Ashmont Main Street. Chris, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you.
Great. Good to see you as well, too. So we have an interesting chat session here, but before we get into some deep, meaty questions, I'm just going to toss a little softball, if you will, at that. So as you were prepping for this interview, I know for myself, I usually have like some type of music playlist. What is that one song that gets you amped and going, and you're like, you know what, I can do this. I got this. I'll toss it over to Joelle because I see that look in your face of like, I got this is on repeat all the time.
I don't know if you guys would know this song, but it's actually it's a Haitian song from Michael Bourne. He has an album called La Caille, and this song is called Café Pesé Café. But it's a song that hypes me up. His album has a lot of house beats on it, as well as compa and different styles. So yeah, that's what hypes me up.
Nice. And what about you, Chris?
Um, I listen to a lot of stuff, but as of recently, what I've been kind of playing a lot of is that Drake, honestly, never mind. It has like a real house vibe to it, so I kind of like that. It's
Mm.
some good background music, so I've been kind of vibing out to that recently a lot. So,
Usually that's usually how it goes, this kind of thing for me. My go-to, well, I usually have it as on a playlist per se, but the one that I'm like, once the playlist happens and that song hits, it's going to be on repeat until I'm like, all right, I'm good, which is My Time by Kelly Price. It's just, it feels just so like I could do this. It's like, okay, here we go, can conquer the world.
Like that.
So it's just that one. You just need that good one anthem, like when you're feeling down, especially as entrepreneurs. You're just like, oh, there's just so much going on. So it's just a good uplifting of some sort. So, but yeah, awesome. So let's get into it, shall we? All right. So here's a question for you. That's quite interesting, and I would love to have everybody's take on this. Why is it important to you for Black and Brown designers to have space in the fashion industry? And I'm going to toss this over to Chris first.
um, why it's important for Black and Brown to have a space in the fashion industry? I think it's important because for me, right, when I was like, when you were in school, they were like, choose something that you want to do for the rest of your life, right? And I was always into like sneakers and clothes, like trying to be the best dressed, things like that. Because I had older cousins that were very like hip, so I was just always into the things that they were into. So when your teacher asks you that, I'm like, what do I like? And it's like, I like clothes. I used to just draw t-shirts, shirts, everything. I used to draw it. So, and I was looking for someone to kind of like guide me in a direction. And at the time, I mean, I think it was like it was nobody, honestly. And I think for me, if I had someone in that space that looked like me, it would have probably like propelled me a little bit faster, I would say, because it was like I had to do a lot of research to kind of find just what I needed to do to actually, you know, break into the game.
And Joelle, what about you?
I'd have to agree with Chris. I think representation matters, right? When I first started doing, when I first started doing high fashion, there were no black faces in high fashion, so like this was like over 15 years ago. Where everything there was like, I'm gonna date myself, but like, it was FUBU and Cognite, where it's all streetwear. And you consider black and brown fashion to really be more urban wear. But for me, I'm an artist, right? So I started back in the day with a photographer, a good friend of mine, Itasha Jordan, who was actually named photographer of the year by Essence last year. But when we started, we were looking at how come these like great spreads in Vogue, how come we never see any black faces in them? Right? Like these, like so much money is invested in, these elaborate sets. It's theatrical, it's beautiful, it's fantastical, and those are the things that I wanted to see. I wanted to see, artistry on a set. And so back in the day, I started mostly as a creative director, building these beautiful sets, this beautiful imagery. And that moved into like, really looking at fashion as a business. But it's important. And I didn't see it. So we created it, right? Like if we weren't able to see it, so we created, we became the ones that, we had never seen before so that we could influence others. But like Chris mentioned, like representation matters. I also think besides just like on the design end, I think it's important for Black and brown folks to be on the executive end, right? I did merchandising. I was a merchandising manager for many years for H&M. And if you remember, like a few years ago, H&M had that scandal where you had the monkey on the little boy's shirt, right? And so it's important because I'm like, nobody at that table, when they were reviewing those designs, nobody at that table was Black, right? you
Yeah.
know, because if somebody was Black, they would have been like, nah, you can't do that, right? Like,
Some things, yeah, no.
you know? And so that's the reason why it's important to have that perspective, because, we're the highest, consumers, we need to have fashion that really represents us in what we believe in. Yeah.
Nice. So, in your journeys, let's now focus on like self, and because we went on like a bigger global question, if you will, if you want to say that much. So, let's come down on like a bit of a local end, or where it comes to self. So, in your journeys with fashion, what would you say are some of the barriers you faced in the beginning when you started in the fashion industry? Like, what were those big roadblocks that was just like, you gotta be kidding me, but yet, you know what, you turned it around and said, on to the next one.
I think one of the barriers for me is or like I think it was like a good thing, but it was definitely like something that I had a chip on my shoulder about in the beginning. So like when I was first starting, it's like a lot of people that look like us, if they were doing it, they didn't want, like, if they seen like talent or someone who was had the potential to, I guess, like dethrone them, I guess, you know what I'm saying? They wouldn't provide information. So and I was the type of person to where it's like, yo, if you don't know, just ask, you feel me? So,
Right.
I would go around and I would ask certain people, and then sometimes they would give me the runaround, or what they would do is like make my like buy-in so high to where it's like, yo, dude, I'm like really just starting. I just sold a dozen t-shirts, bro. How am I gonna pay you this amount of money for manufacturing or something like that, right?
Hmm.
So then what I kind of did for myself is I looked at them, and it's like, yo, not like no imposter syndrome type thing, but it's just like, yo, if you can do it, I can do it type of thing. And what I did was, I kind of just went on a hunt, like started researching. Like you'll look in the tag of your clothes, they'll tell you exactly where it's made. And sometimes you just have to Google like clothing factories in Pakistan or in Vietnam or whatever the case is. And then also within searching that stuff, you get some of the sites that at the time they it wasn't as popular, but like your AliExpress, Alibaba, all these different places where you can get clothing produced. Now, you would have to then sort out factories, send them, information, create these tech packs, and I even had to teach myself how to do that too. And it's just like something that's just like going online, and then what I did was I was like, you know what, I want to let these people know that I'm serious. So I actually went to China myself, So uh, I had a homeboy that was there, and he was like, "Yeah, man." He told me where to go, whatever the case is. I'm like, "All right, cool." So when I come out there, I'm gonna hit you up, blah blah blah. You're gonna meet me. You're gonna show me around. I get out there. This dude ain't pick up the phone one time, but luckily,
He ghosts you. Straight ghost you there.
you know what? But luckily, within the first couple conversations on my way there, he gave me a lot of information to kind of do my thing, and I brought some people with me. So We went to Guangzhou, China, and we just was like talking to factories. We there was a communication barrier, but our phone was able to like keep it, keep the communications going. And I think that's like a barrier that I had that I got over. And what I tell anybody is just like, it's out there for you. You just have to be willing to go get it. You feel what I'm saying? Because and then another thing too that I noticed, like a lot of people be like, "Oh, Chris, how do you do this?" Dude, I'm not going to waste my time to give you information and something that you're not going to do, because that's a lot of time people are just asking to see whether or not you're going to do it. And I'll tell you exactly what you got to do, but a lot of times that no one's going to do it. So I mean, for me that was a barrier, but it also made me just like a stronger individual, just as far as like if there's anything in this business, because you run into a lot of I mean, I can go down a line of things, but I think that was one that was very instrumental in my growth.
I was going to mention, I was like, how did you manage to get through once you were in China of just the communication alone? And you just said it, the power of technology just at least aided you through to make those
Yeah,
connections and getting the understanding of what you needed to do next.
right. And then also too, once you meet one person, you'll meet another person, and then they'll kind of just start just guiding you around, because in this country they're looking for business,
Mm,
so just like I'm looking for them, they're looking for me too. So it's like, okay, this is a place that sells all these buttons, but oh, you need a zipper too? Okay, let me take you to my homeboy, he sells zippers. So it was kind of like connecting the dots, and just linking up with a bunch of different people to kind of complete the package, you feel me?
nice. And Joel, what about you?
I just wanted to just piggyback off of what Chris said. I think the thing too, what he's saying is like he wanted it, right? Like that's the reason why like nobody was helping him, and he really wanted it, so he was willing to do the work. It didn't matter that like there was a language barrier, and I think that's what separates people oftentimes. I think for me, one of the biggest barriers when I first started was just the timing of it. So my son was really young. I was like a new wife, and I was trying to do a lot, right? So I was like, um, I was working for a magazine in New York, and my son and my ex husband they were here in Boston. I would do like the back and forth thing, and uh, I was, I think what I didn't really understand at the time is that like you have so much time, right? You have so much time in this life to do everything that you need to do, and that you don't have to do it all right now, right?
Right.
And I had to learn that because my building my business has been a journey, right? Like it's taken me a while. There was like when I came back from New York and I was living in Boston, and my focus was really my family. My son just turned 21. He's in college, he's in his last year of college, and now I'm like full Creole, where it's like
Mm,
I can go from like my first child to now like my second child. um,
right.
but understanding like the order of priority of things was really important for me, because I was trying to juggle so much, and I was spreading myself thin, where I wasn't happy. I wasn't able to be like a great designer and do really well at my job because I was missing so much on that end. And then I'd be home and I'd be like, I want to be designing, I want to be this. And so it just felt like a battle. And so like that's why I always tell, like I have like now, I have mentees that I work with that, I'm trying to pass down like what I've learned along the way. Cause like what Chris said is so real. Like when you're first getting started, nobody really tells you anything. So you have to learn a lot of things for yourself. And for me, I'm like, okay, if I like the information is not for me, right? Like I'm learning it so that I can pass it on over to someone. There is an abundance,
Hmm.
right? Like there's enough for everybody. There's no like the only competition that I'm really looking at is myself. And then the other barrier I really struggled with, and I think I'm still working through, is production, right? Because I am not like, I don't believe in fast fashion. So like, I'm not doing large quantities of things. We don't make more than 10 of an item. So that's a very difficult thing, because if you're going to a production company, they're treating each of them as like a sample, so it's not beneficial, cost wise, it's not beneficial on that end. So I've had to do a lot of all of our production is done in house. It's my mother and I have another seamstress that I work with, but everything is done in house. But now, as we're expanding and, like we have our first brick and mortar, and my hope is to be able to open up more brick and mortars, we really need to look at what this low level production is going to look like, and how we can hire more seamstresses to do that work. But yeah, those were a few of the barriers.
Interesting. Very nice. I would say, like, for myself as well too, seeing so I'm on the opposite end of you guys, because you would be on the fashion producing side, and I'm more of like the stage production side of producing and all. And I would say my barriers were just that, of just gaining and learning the information. It's easy to be the one to give it the task of, we need you to do this. So for years, and it was also based on, as you said, Joelle, like the timing of it all, and pacing yourself. And when you're there, Chris, for the hunger to learn, it happens. So it's a matter of, when I wanted to learn things, I would just quietly observe how someone was doing something. And part of it was also ask questions, but I would ask it in a way that I'm not really like posing myself as a threat. And also at the same time too, I really wasn't, but it was just because, if you ask this question in a certain way, they're like, why are you asking that for? And it's just like,
Right.
this of the eyebrows get raised on, like, well, were you trying to take my job, trying to move in on me? I'm just like, wait a minute, just want to learn. I have genuine interest, heaven forbid. But it's just, things were like that. So even for me, learning about a fashion week, I mean, yeah, you have your books, there's knowledge on that. You have people that write articles on how to produce an event. um you get those things, but then there's other things that you have to learn along the way, of like dealing with situations that pop up, and then guess what, you're the boss of that. Not like, you report to that person, you are now that one that is everybody reporting to. And how do you handle that? So it's just like, well, I've never, so there's a lot of figuring it out myself as well too. But at the same time, I kind of went in an interesting way of like, you know what, I see what that person is doing, I'm going to figure out a way to connect with that person, and you're going to be my mentor, like it or not. So I was like, you're my mentor now. They're like, wait, what? So I'm just like, we're just going to just, make this an aggressive way of just making you just helping me through this. And because they see what I'm trying to do, they actually help me, which is amazing, because not many people want to help you, which is also where you have that whole learning curve along the way, and you're stumbling and tumbling along the way. And then when it's like, it's your turn, it's like, well, do you share the wisdom, or do you be like, you gotta learn, kid? Sometimes it's like, it's a tough, scenario how it plays out with the knowledge that you now gain. Because it's like, if you think of it like a video game, you now leveled up to this point. That person that's down there, like, well, how do I get to this level? I could tell you, but are you really going to learn? So,
Right.
and it's always an interesting scenario when you have folks, like, as you mentioned with Chris, like, they'll come to you and be like, so how do you do this? And it's like, well, I could honestly tell you, but in all honesty, I know your personality, I know your drive, and it's not really going to go anywhere. Let's review. So let's not. And it may seem mean, but you understand what you went through. So you want to make sure that they're going to be ready for that kind of stuff, or are they just going to flake out? Because a lot of people say, yeah, I want to do it, and then the minute it gets hard, and poof, like a snowflake, they're gone. And it's just like, wait, what just happened here? What happened to you? Yeah, about that.
Right.
I see it. Yeah, I'll tell you. Like, I see it as like, it's not my problem what you do with it after that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you choose to go ahead and utilize the information I give you, or if you flake out, like, that's your business.
Right.
I feel like I went through the hard things so that I could make it a little easier for you. You know, for the person who's actually going to use it and do something with it, right?
Right.
Because we all wish we had like a little bit of something, right? Like someone that
That's
was helping
somebody.
us along the
Yeah.
way. And I know that I've also had a lot of great, you know, people who helped out along the way as well, you know? So it's like, for me, I'm like, once I give it to you, it's your business, whatever. Like, I don't take it personally. It's like, whatever you want to do with it is cool.
Mhm.
But it's not for me to hold. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think
Because it's like,
enough.
what does it help you?
Right. And I definitely agree with that. But one thing that I'm starting to understand, just like with, like you said, like having life, like kids and family and, running a business and having to deal with this, and this. Sometimes, like, your time is like really money. You feel me? So sometimes you have to, and we never get time back. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I can sit down with you. Yeah, I would love to sit. Like, I would rather go sit and tell kids exactly what they need to do because their minds are so like, oh, what, really? You know what I'm saying? And then when you
Yeah.
you meet you actually sit down with someone and it's like, bro, you just made me waste 2 hours of
Mm.
my time. You
I
feel
hear
me?
that.
Like that
Mhm.
that's really what it is because like you said, the information that you receive is meant to give. Like when you die, it's gone. You know what I'm saying? So you
Right.
have to plant those seeds constantly to the people you cross. And then sometimes it may not be like, okay, the factory that I go to, but let me tell you how to get it. Then that lets
Yeah.
you know if you're really, really serious about it. Like, oh yeah, like, okay, try this person right here. If you haven't reached out to this person and then you come into me asking me something else, hey, how did that go with blah blah blah? Oh
Right.
Mm.
man, you know what? My mom, this, that, and the third, so I didn't get a chance to. But how did you get those sneakers made? I'm like, bro, like you didn't even do step one. You feel me? So it's like
I hear it.
sometimes I think that's what it is because you're right. Like the information you receive, you got to give it because like the few people that actually helped you in this game, you have to play it forward. But sometimes like yo, time is mad precious. Yo, you have
100%.
relationships that want your time, you want, so it's just like, bro, like, son, I can't do it. So I think
I
that's how
hear
I look at it.
It's an interesting one in terms of like wealth and knowledge and passing on the gems. It's always like, how do you find that beautiful balance with those who come to you? Because you feel like at some point you end up becoming the wise one.
Hmm.
Depending as you go through your life and your journeys, no matter what it is and what field or whatever the case is, you learn things and you now have wisdom on things. So it's just finding that interesting balance. So, interesting question to toss out again, as we're tossing out these lovely questions that are really getting the mind going as we get deeper and deeper. So, even with the prominent influence of Black and Brown culture in the world's culture, do you believe the landscape of the fashion industry acknowledges diversity in designers?
Let me guess
And
me.
I'll toss this over to Joel too.
Oh, okay.
No, we'll toss it to Joel. No, we'll mix it up. Wild card, Joel.
I thought you were gonna pass it to Chris too. I'm like, okay, it's going to Chris.
Wild card. See, I got you on your toes.
But do I think the industry acknowledges the diversity in Black and Brown designers? It's an interesting question. I think during the pandemic, post everything that's been happening racially,
Mm,
I think now there's a charge to acknowledge Black and Brown designers, but I think it's more so like, let's meet this quota, right? Let's look at, okay, how many Black designers do we have on the roster? I don't
right.
care who it is. Let's just like,
Let's spotlight them for this month.
so I think that's what's happening right now, right? Where it's, now it's like, it's become more of like, okay, let's make sure that, we have some spots, almost kind of like affirmative action kind of a thing. But I think
Mm,
what's interesting though is that for Black and Brown designers, it's becoming less and less important, right, to be acknowledged, right? Because what I'm realizing, what I'm noticing is you have like the Pierre Moss or Aurora James, Noel, who are showing up in their own authenticity where it doesn't really matter, right, if the acknowledgement is happening. And so what I'm seeing is a lot of movements where Black and brown designers are utilizing this time, right, to push it forward, right? So like you have like the 15% pledge, where they're asking, the larger corporations to devote 15% of their earnings towards Black businesses, right? So I think we're utilizing this moment in time to be able to leverage. And I don't think it's as important to be acknowledged. I think that we're becoming more and more secure in understanding that we create culture, and that like we are the culture, right? Like we are the culture. And at the end of the day, when we create our own, we hold that power, right? And so yeah, I don't see it as important as it used to be.
What about you, Chris?
Um, I definitely agree with Joel as far as like it's a lot of quota meeting, but also
Mhm.
too, when you start to look at like high end brands and like Gucci and things like that, and the Louis Vuittons and those brands that a lot of like we look to as like that's the I made it. They are now reaching back to like pushing like a t-shirt or a hat or like street culture. So I know that just from like looking, because I do look at fashion shows and different things like that, and I see like, okay, damn, this is something that I see walking up and down the street every single day, like the cuts of the jeans and what the kids are wearing. They're now putting that on the runway. But what
Mhm.
I what I think is happening too with that is we're not, like, us as black people, we're not buying into us. You feel what I'm saying? It's like, okay, you'll now buy Louis Vuitton because they have a black designer, or but they don't own it. You get what I'm saying?
Right,
There's
right, right.
someone that there's a company that's using the same manufacturing as Louis Vuitton or Gucci or whatever, but you want to like nickel and dime them, but you'll give Gucci all your money. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Mhm.
I think they're definitely paying attention, but I think there has to be like a shift as far as like what we give importance to within the fashion industry, because like there's a lot of dope designers that start their own, that have their brand and their own, that same culture that we look at some of the bigger brands. So I mean, I guess that's my take on it right there.
So, how do we create that shift? I will toss back to you, Chris.
I think we create that shift by for instance, like a t-shirt or a bag or whatever that we create, you know we mark that up in order for us to one, pay ourselves and allow our business to grow. So it's just like, just constantly giving back to ourselves, and also like, you know shedding light on each other, for real, because a lot of times we get in these places to where now we're on big stages, and instead of us shining back on someone that's on the rise, we put
Hmm.
something that's above us. You get what I'm saying? That's going to sell whether you wear it or not. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what needs to happen. It's just like shining more light on things. Don't I'm not just saying you got to put on everything, because some stuff could be a little, you know what I mean? It could be a little whack, but the things that are comparable to these brands, yo, you got to shine lights on them. You got to shine some light on 'em, because I think that's the only way. Because right now we're in a social media era. Um, we're in a influencer era. We're in these places where all it takes is one look.
Mm-hmm.
For real. It only takes one look, and then this particular brand that no one knew yesterday, everyone needs to have today. So I just think that the people that are in place need to start looking at um need to start looking at and I think you can even start in your community because like again I think there's brands that are or people within your community, and I'm just saying anybody that are or that are doing good work, that are making sure that that it has good design, that's making sure that it has great quality and has a great price at whatever price point you need to purchase it at,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I think you that has to happen. That's what I think.
Nice. So, for the future of fashion and as we see it now and what it could be, where do you guys see fashion in the current landscape that we're in, and where do you see it like in 5 to 10 years? Like, what does that look like given what we know now and what people care about now and what they're paying attention to now? Do you think it will still continue, or there'll be a new thing or a new shift? Toss it over to Joelle.
Um, I think a lot is happening like right now in fashion. Both like in the world, in the real world, and also in tech. Um, I think I think people are becoming more conscious of what they're buying. So like as Chris was talking about like the shift that needs to happen, right? I think that shift is happening. It may be not on a grander scale. And so my hope is that it starts to happen on a grander scale because like these larger brands that have been around for, you know, years, they're not they're not that different. I always think about like what if like Louis Vuitton or Gucci started today? Like what would that look like? Right. In like these folks like they're not like the designs are not that original. Like I've gone abroad and seen, you know, artisans that are like weaving bags and then see Gucci put it out next year for like they're selling it for $20 at the market. Gucci selling it for $1,300 next year. You know, so it's not original. It's like stuff that you have like creators, like actual creators, right? Who are like, you know, really working towards their design. So I think people are becoming more conscious of that, conscious of their buying power, you know, and they're choosing brands that actually mean something to them. I think, you know, I don't know that fast fashion will ever grow out of style. You know, I think people just like cheap stuff. Right? um, and there's different market segments, but I do think that fast fashion is becoming less attractive to a lot of folks, right? And people are really looking for things that are more environmental friendly. I was watching this show the other day. I think it's called The Future of on Netflix, and it was talking about the future of fashion, and it was scary. Um, it was like showing how people would be creating designs. So like, you know, thinking about the metaverse, you know, creating designs where you can purchase the design and basically have a picture taken with the design on, so you never get the garment, but you have a picture to put a post on Instagram of you in the garment. Right.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of craziness, you know, a lot of interesting things that are coming from this, like, you know, from things like Instagram and TikTok for, you know, where it's aesthetic driven. It's not necessarily, you know, it's not people thinking about real life, real connection, or real, you know, connection to their garments even. It's more about like how they look. So there's that part of it as well. And then I think that the way that we create clothing is going to be different. You know, like you have a lot of 3D printing that's happening now. I just saw a show. I can't remember this designer, but like I just posted it yesterday. Actually, I can't. The name of the designer escapes me, but it was they had the girl on the runway and three people spray painting, right,
Yes, 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 yes,
a
yes, yes.
dress on her. And then when it ended, like it looked like paint was going on her, but it was an actual, like it was some kind of a fabric that was on her
Right.
because we were able to like cut it and manipulate it. So I think there's a lot that's coming forth. in the next few years, like I say, like I'm gonna date myself, but like um I'm the generation that saw 8 tracks, CDs, tapes, now like streaming, like look at how where we are right now. So I think there's a lot that's in store that we can't even begin to imagine. But I think it's also how do we move with the times, right? And how do
Right.
we take advantage? I think some things need to remain authentic and organic, but some things can also be utilized, right, to enhance our own experience. Because I know even for us, for Creole, we're looking at, we do a lot of custom garments, and we're looking at ways that we can, do something like where we can take someone's measurements virtually, right? And this was something that we really tried to exercise during the pandemic because we used to do these one-on-one consultations. But like if we're able to take a picture of like or someone is able to take a picture of themselves and they're next to a bottle, and we know the dimensions of the bottle, how do we then take their measurements and be able to customize a garment to them? So I think there's a lot that's coming when we're thinking about the future of fashion. Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
Um, I definitely agree with Joel as far as like implementing tech into this because I see like with with people getting dressed just for a picture, um, I think there's gonna also be, and this is just what I'm feeling. I might be like creating a new business, but I think like there's gonna be a lot of like people like sharing of clothing because like after that one picture you really don't necessarily wear it that much. So I think and you kind of see it too with like sneakers, that like the sneaker industry, like how they sell their sneakers and trade and stuff like that. So I definitely think there'll be more things where like people are kind of like just trading clothing, making it more like, and then even too like it's being more versatile, like as far as like this one piece can be several different things because I mean I'm not, because I really see as people are being more glued to this phone, glued to the computer, they're less interactive with each other. So it's just like how can I show and then all show you what I have on in this world, because I mean
Yeah.
it's like this metaverse, and I'm telling you like even with my son, this dude be like this all day. So it's like, and wants to, and he's buying skins and different things like that. So I really feel like fashion may transition to like a little bit more virtual, as far as like even like some of the things you purchase. Like, I'm gonna
Right.
spend $1,000 for this digital T-shirt, and I just have on a Hanes at my crib. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that's where I see like fashion going in the future, like just something that's completely digital, something that's like something that you wear one time. I don't, that's where I see it.
And it's interesting you say that because I mean, I guess you could say we're kind of in that direction in a way with the NFTs. They're like,
Hmm.
to understand it or not understand it, but the thing is, you can just make an NFT of whatever, and then people are just buying that up like crazy, and it has a huge value. So who's to say like that there aren't designers that are currently right now moving into that space because they're understanding like, as you saying, the digital world has power. So we are moving there. It's just a matter of time, I guess, that we all catch up.
Right.
Is the
Isn't
is the
that
way.
crazy though? Like the idea of like purchasing $1,000 shirt that I never have in my hand. I'm wearing a Hanes t-shirt in my house. It sounds nuts to me. Like,
Trust me, it really does. But the some of these kids and their like so overall social skills sometimes is like, yeah, you just want to sit on this computer all day. So it's like, and you're like, I want V-Bucks to buy a shirt for this avatar. You get what I'm saying? So I think, and these kids are getting older, and what's happening is they're implementing that, because I honestly feel like eventually, like even going into offices and things, that's probably going to be because we've seen a pivot that we can use, and the people that really enjoyed it are now moving into power, and that's kind of, in my mind, that's kind of how things shift. You know,
Right.
I've seen something that I like, now I want this for everyone, type of thing. I
Yeah.
don't know. You know, conspiracy theorists. I don't know. You know, that's what
You may be onto something. You never know.
I
You never know.
No, it's happening.
It's happening, but it's like if time we realize it, it's probably that we're now late in the game. Let's call it like that,
Seriously.
Yeah.
because that's how fast life is moving in a technological space, and it's like time you realize it's like you're late. We're now moving on to the next thing, so it's an interesting scenario. But I will say this was an interesting just round of conversations. But now we're going to move into a different mode, and it's going to be the Soul Bowl. The Soul Bowl, we'll say we're going to pour into each other of different questions that we may have, and we can just toss to each other and ask questions and go from there. And welcome to the Soul Bowl. So, Joelle, do you have a question for any one of us that you'll love us to answer?
Yeah, I do. I do actually. I think it's so great to be in a space with you guys, having had so much like experience in the Boston fashion scene. I think one of the things that always um baffles me about Boston, especially, right? So my experience with Boston, I had been here for years as an artist. Um, and a creator, and I would reach out in the beginning, I would reach out to, in the same way that you're talking, Chris, like to different people, or in specifically like news outlets, right? um,
Mm,
I would be having events or different things like that. I would reach out to different news outlets, media, to cover or to, send out press releases. Nothing ever, nothing, right? And then I went to New York, and I would get press in New York, right? So once I started getting press in New York, I was, I think I was like on Teen Vogue. And then that's when now all the media outlets are like, they're looking for me, right? They're highlighting, we got like Best of Boston. And I remember having this conversation, right? Because I don't think Boston does a really good job at highlighting and really nurturing the artists that they have. Because I used to work for a magazine, and their job was really to look for up and coming talent. So it's like they would find somebody in like Sao Paulo, or like in Nigeria somewhere, that no one knew, and then next year they blew up. Right? They would do an article on them a year ahead, and then next year everybody knows about them. And so I guess my question is, because we in Boston, I find that we always do the usual suspects, right? Like the artists that get featured are the artists who always get featured, right? And there's new blood, right? There's new blood that's coming. And
lots of it.
so my question is, one, what has your experience been on that end, and how do we do a better job in Boston finding the new talent and nurturing the new talent so that they don't leave, right? So that, and I say so that they don't leave because sometimes it's your charge to leave. Like, I don't plan on being in Boston forever. But for the people who want to stay, like if this is their hometown, they want to be here, how do we make it easier for them to succeed here?
It's funny because I have like a very similar like build, right? I was in Atlanta, and when I was in Atlanta, like I did like Janelle Monae's backup dancers, uh like Chris, just everybody that was like coming up, I was able to like touch them, kind of, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that's that's one thing that Boston doesn't have, or if they do have it, like you said, they kind of keep it within themselves. Like, I'm just gonna touch all the same people, even if they're good or not. You get what I'm saying? And sometimes you have to step outside your circle because that's the real talent. And a lot of times everybody wants, I feel like, my opinion, like everybody wants to be the man. And like you said earlier, it's enough for everyone. You get what I'm saying? It's really like it's abundant. Sometimes I'm like, yo, how can we both sell the same thing on the same block? It's possible because this person wants this person wants that. And I just think about a grocery store. We go to the grocery store, there's frosted flakes, frosted fleas, it's just the same thing over and over again. And I just feel like there has to be, and I don't know, I'm going to say like the Jesus or Moses, but there has to be someone that's willing to almost like lead the way, like just to part the sea and just allow everybody to just come through the door. And I think, and also just let it be known, like, yo, who else do you know? Who else do you know? Who else do you know? You know, and that's what I think. Because even living in Atlanta, right? I see like a lot of these hip hop artists. They were promoting each other's music. Like
Yeah.
like a big artist would promote someone that you don't even know, and then next year he's now the big artist. You see what I'm saying? So I think that has to happen. But everyone, and then too, I feel like people have to understand like there's like shifts. Like, so you can be hot today, you can be a little bit cool, but as long as you can consistent, you can heat back up. But if you attach yourself to something that's heating up, you're always going to stay a little, like a little bit warm until your time comes back. And it just has to be that type of circulation. Because I mean, you look at the music industry, they do it all the time. Like Jay-Z, I feel like Jay-Z is so popular because he tapped on to who, after his, not little, but his career was over, he tapped on to this person. I mean, now I'm like the big homie. You know what I'm saying? So everybody's reaching out to me, keep me relevant, but he's still not as hot as he is, but he's still hot because he's connected to this person. So I just think that just has to happen. People just have to be, just remove the fear of, yo, he's taking my shine or he's gonna take my spot, and understand, yo, we can all have a spot. You know what I'm saying? I think that's my opinion. You know.
I agree. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, it's interesting and tough, especially in this market, for just to get your voice out there. Because as you mentioned, like here, it's so tough because they always just point to the same folks over and over, and you're like, I had something over here. Look at me. And it's just like, well, what do I got to do that to get you to even look in my direction? And that's always an interesting scenario for myself as well too, with producing an event and just making sure that we're spotlighting folks and everything. So when it comes to the media level, I'm like, you know what? Clearly, you guys don't see what we see. So we're just going to keep doing our own thing. And thank goodness for social media that we have a platform. We can get on there and just and talk about ourselves to, somebody pays attention to us, and we've built a following that it helps now. And then we can expand out. So it's just, and then you just really got to tap onto the network and make sure that the network understands to help and build each other as well too, because you just can't be like me, and then it's like, okay, so it's my turn, I'm done, but what about me? And then they're like, yeah, we'll do you, but you have to plug into everybody, because everybody has networks. So, and that's where the power in, because I can only say one thing to one set of people so many times, but you may say something and it impacts to the next thing, and that's where the connections happen. So we have to support each other and push
Agreed.
Agreed.
and
Agreed.
have a collective unit of just pushing out, and instead of that good old crabs in a barrel mentality, because that part is the real part.
I have
Exists.
one more thing too that I just thought of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I like how Joel said she'll like go to other states and they'll like bigger up crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it is important. It is important as like a artist of Boston to have like to build a strong foundation here and then step out, because what it does is it builds this base a little bit stronger. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And then within that, like you said, kind of pull this person over, and just like you said, let them know.
I hear
So what
you.
about you, Chris? What are you pouring into the soul bowl? What
Um,
questions do you have?
I think it's kind of like a piggyback off of that. Like, what do you think? Damn, I don't know if we all said it, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What do you think we can do, like, what are some of the things outside of what we've already thought of or said that we can do to collaborate with each other as, different brands or different companies to kind of build the Boston base, I guess.
Mm.
Well, that's a fun one.
So I remember um back in the day, they used to have like meetups, right? And it sounds corny, right? But so like for instance, like us being here right now, right? Like I know Althea, but Chris, I've never met you, right?
Right.
But like in this conversation, right, there's a lot that I'm learning about you that I'm like, yo, like I like the way this dude thinks, right? Like I could see us doing something, at some point, like in terms of collaboration or even just like bouncing ideas, right?
Right.
And so I think there needs to be a space, right? There needs to be a space where people can tap into. So like if there used to be like fashion meetups and stuff like that, and the what I found with the fashion meetups is that they were very white. I wasn't seeing a lot of people that look like me. I wasn't seeing a lot of people that were amplifying our voices. And so I think there's something that needs to happen where, like it's amplifying our voices, right? That that a fashion meetup that really is about us. That's fun. It doesn't necessarily need to be that we're talking about fashion all the time, but the idea of getting to know someone. Like I'm a person who doesn't do business with people that I don't like, right? Like
Mm.
I don't do business with someone if I can't have dinner with you. Like I can't like have a good time with you and I really respect you as a person. And I think in order to create those relationships, there needs to be a space for that to happen, right? So like if people are coming together to like have dinner, like a dinner group or something like that, where people are just like there's space for folks to get to know each other.
So like a black and brown, like for designers or fashion industry professionals, like meetup, basically.
Yeah, you got that, Althea? You gonna do it?
Mhm.
Get out of my head. I'm just
and even and
Like,
even
I'm a little dangerous over here with my mind.
and even like marketing too, like different, because I know
yeah,
just like as a creative person that wants to create clothing, sometimes I can't hop out of this bag to get in someone else's bag. So if there's other
Mhm.
people within the city that can do that, that'll be a great space that we all, you know what I'm saying? We can all
yeah,
Right.
build each other.
yeah.
Mm.
Agree,
I
agree.
like that. That's a good one.
That's a good one. You asked that question. Look at that.
See
you,
that?
you
Look at that. Look
you
at
kicked
God.
that off. Look at that. Okay, Chris, with the knowledge and the questions. Don't sleep on him now. Don't sleep on him.
Feel me?
As we come to this close, and we've I would say wrapping up the soul bowl, if you will. Um, Here's a moment where you can tell the audience of what's up and what's next for you. And if you have anything to plug, just a quick little 2 minute blurb. Where will we see you next? What's on the agenda? What's for the holidays? Because the holidays are going to be approaching. So if you got any Black Friday sales or holiday specials, like what's up? What's going on? Where can we find you? What's on the plate coming down the road? And toss it to Joelle.
Thank you, Althea. So of course, the holidays are coming up. So, we're looking to do a few events at the boutique. We actually have not done our grand opening yet. So we are planning for that as well. So I would say for folks to really sign up on our mailing list at iamkreyol.com. That's IAMKREYOL.com, just to find out, everything that we have happening. We're going to be releasing our refugee collection end of October. So yeah, super excited. Thank you.
Awesome. Chris.
Yeah, we'll be releasing we're dropping actually our fall collection this Friday. So you can pull up to the store. I'll be here. That's 1658 Dorchester Avenue, Boston, Mass. You can also find us at Derillis on Instagram and www.derillis.com. And for the holidays, we tend to do turkey drives. So Thanksgiving, we'll have our fifth annual now. Um, right here at the store. Um, yeah, so we just try to stay involved with the community. So we'll be doing more things like that too. So, but yeah, this Friday, pull up on your boy.
Nice. Awesome. So I'm just going to take this beautiful opportunity to wrap up what we have spoke about today. And I hope I can hit everybody's talking points that we shared on. And you can add in the 2 cents if I missed a note or two. I was taking notes along the way like a good studious person would. So today it was all about figuring out where we are in this world when it comes to the Black and brown community in the fashion industry. It's with representation and how you can make an impact. And at the same time, we need to figure out ways of becoming the voice of power, whether we're sitting at the executive table or in our own brands and making to wait for people to hear our voice. And no matter what, you have to put in the work. It's going to take time, but at the same time, you can go at your own pace. It's not a race. It's not a competition. There is going to be someone that's going to be ahead of you. There's going to be someone that's going to be behind you. But the point is, you are going at the pace that is meant for you. And that's what matters. We will find that, you know what, it's going to be too much, but that's okay. You can always find help, plug yourself into a network of other folks that will help you and guide you and push you along. And no matter what, even though there's career driven self, you want to find your balance. You do have a life outside of your work, and you want to make sure that mentally, physically, spiritually, it all connects and that you are all at one and in peace. But at the same time, we have a lot of stuff in the world that's coming at us, and you got to make sure that, again, the voice, you got to find where you stand. And the beautiful thing about where we are in this world today is we have social media. So while the big production houses are looking at us, as in the Black and brown community within the fashion realm, and seeing us and basically biting our style, if you will, and saying, oh, well, we are doing something that is diverse and we're doing it, but are they really, is the question? Or are they just making it a quota and just checking off boxes of saying, see, we did that too? Are they really being true to what they are? And at the same time, the buying power makes a difference. And that's where the big corps and big production houses are noticing that. So on the small end with the local guys, we do have a say in what we can control and put out there. And don't worry about what the other folks are saying and doing. Do what is true to you. You don't need to be validated, because at the end of the day, we are the culture. And no matter what, we always have to support each other. You can't be thinking, oh, well, you know, I got this, I could do this, da, da, da. It's going to be a very lonely road, and you got to plug in to other folks, and you have to, as we did with the Soul Bowl today, we got to pour into each other. We have to ask the hard-hitting questions and figure out what makes sense, what's next, and then also check in with each other and seeing how we're doing and how can we help your brand? How can you help my brand? What sources can we do and use for each other to get to that next level? And we can't be afraid of what the future holds. Tech is here, and tech is dictating how fashion is being bought, what is in, what's out. Fast fashion, as we know, is not going away. Like it or not, it's just not going away. So the thing is, are you going to be in that fast stream, or are you going to still find your way and find your voice in the tech space? You may be able to use technology and not be afraid of it to find a way to elevate your voice and to expand your brand as well too. So it's all about where can we be in the future. It's up to you on that one. It's how you define it as well. I want to thank my lovely guests, Joelle and Chris. Did I hit all our lovely talking points for today? Did I do well?
That was on
Yeah, you
point. That was
bodied
a good
that.
wrap
You
up.
did a good job. Yeah, yeah, I was going to say that too. Like, yo, what?
I took
You
notes.
are a good student.
Okay. I was like, that was a good listening right there.
Yeah, seriously.
I take notes. So thank you so much for that. So you know what? I will close it and wrap it from here. So the next Artdacity episode will air on Thursday, November 17th, in 2022, and will be the final Artdacity episode of the 2022 season. If you would like to be the first to learn more about upcoming BAMFest events, please visit bamfest.org and sign up for our monthly newsletter. We encourage all of you to follow and like all of our social media platforms at BAMFest. And until next time, have a good night.